They said there's no doubt you'll surely lose. Go ahead and sing your tune. We didn't listen, stayed right on the truth. And now we're on the right side of the news.
Right side of the news. Good morning. I'm Nick Gardner. I'm here with John Knight, and I've got a big announcement I want to make. I've got a nonprofit getting rid of hazardous waste material that really blooms out this time of year. For 2 weeks after the holiday season, I come by and I collect all the leftover candy. I specialize in homemade fudge, and I dispose of it properly. So if you have that problem, get that candy to me.
I'll get hold of you after Halloween. We will let the kids go collect candy, but we don't let them eat any of it.
Is that so?
Yep.
Well, we're going to talk about quite a bit about the flooding issue. I've got some personal experience. John's got some dynamite videos that I hope they're going to put on the screen here, if we can figure that out. But the Reading Record Searchlight, if you want to call that a newspaper, you're welcome to it. I call it a piece of garbage, but they put out a survey.
Is that part of your garbage waste disposal or your hazardous waste disposal?
I don't want to soil the mechanism I have going. I want clean, honest candy and no refined sugars. I want natural, raw sugar.
Okay.
So, the Record Searchlight put out a survey on what's important to keep and what should probably be cut from the city budget. Because as you recall, Tanessa Audette came out with the news that we were $3 or $4 million in the deficit, and it's bloomed up to about $8 million, I believe now. And they're going to have some workshops or some meetings about it, exposing how much we're short and what our priorities are. And the Record Searchlight put out a survey to tell them what we want cut or what we want saved, okay? And on there, they had the library. Did you know the library's still closed? I didn't know that till yesterday. It's been closed 6 months now because they were replacing the carpet.
6 months to replace carpet?
Well, that was supposed to just be, I don't know.
Why even do carpet? Why not just do something like concrete floor would be okay? I mean, or something.
They probably got a grant and they've got to spend some money. That would be my guess.
I don't have any carpet. I got a rug in my house.
Well, as you recall, it used to be the Shasta County Library, and the city took it over, just like the Continuum of Care. You know, they took that over because Kevin Cry came up with the conclusion that we were spending almost $500,000 representing, I think, about 9 counties, and we weren't getting compensated. And so he decided that the Shasta County probably doesn't want to do it anymore. And Barry Tippin laughed at us and said, Reading will be happy to take it over. Well, they took it over and they started spending pretty close to $1 million, so they gave it up. And what the Continuum of Care does more or less is find housing for homeless people and people that don't have a home and that kind of stuff. So they found out that they can't do that and they gave it up. So the library is the same thing.
Yeah.
And I talked to a gal yesterday that volunteers at the library, and I asked her if a certain person worked down there, and she says, well, I don't know. You know, there's so many different departments and so many people working down there. I don't know. You know, maybe it's bloated as hell. But anyway, the things that are important to us are what we want to give up. Do you want to give up the library? Do you want to give up the Civic Center? The Civic Center down there at Turtle Bay? Do you want to give up the sports park? Do you want to cut police and fire? That's the one they always go to. Roads. Do you want to keep up our roads, our infrastructure? And then they wanted your thoughts on what should be cut. And it looks to me like they don't know what they're going to cut. I came up with the idea with the sports park is to give it to somebody. And in fact, Tanessa had a nonprofit that was willing to take it. And they needed a little seed money to get going. And I think that'd be a great idea. The city of Reading can't run it. It's paid for. It was paid for with a grant.
Why can't the city of Reading run it?
Well, let's simplify that question. What does the city of Reading run efficiently?
I mean, it should be pretty easy to. What do you charge? $6 or $7 or $8? I don't know why I just said those numbers.
Well, it got up to $5
together.
to get in. But the thing is, the carpets wore out. Should never been put in there to start with, and I don't know. It's going to cost $4.5–5 million to replace the carpet to make it.
If that
safe.
was my business, I could generate a profit or at least break even.
Oh yeah, sure. Especially because you don't have any rent or mortgage. You know, if they gave it to you, you could run the damn thing and make it work. But
Well, if you were the city, you charge just enough money to pretty much break even, keep about 10%, you know, to replace the turf or what, you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, and they didn't do that. They leased it out to Big League Dreams for 32 years. Big League Dreams agreed to keep up all the upkeep on it. They didn't do it. Nobody watched them and held their feet to the fire to do their job. So they finally, Big League Dreams walked away from it. And there we are with a rundown sports park that should be the pride jewel of Shasta County, in my personal opinion. And I want to remind you all to go to Shasta Anon. I can't say enough good about that.
They've been pumping out some really high quality videos that you can get.
Gosh.
Yeah, really good information in a short amount of time for our short attention span.
That's right. That's why we shortened up our podcast to 10 minutes.
Yeah, people were like, man, we can barely handle 10 minutes, let alone an hour. So
Well, I think some people can't handle that much of me. I can get on somebody's nerves if I want to. But I wanted to talk to you.
Do you have to put any effort into it?
No, it comes natural. You know, one thing I noticed, people haven't noticed, is Joe Biden's energy policies are just coming into focus. Can you see that gas is going down? And if you're so dumb you don't think that's sarcasm, you don't even need to listen to the show. That's how I feel about it.
Oh, my gosh.
So, do you want to talk about anything before we go into the flooding?
Oh, I mean, go ahead. I mean, I'll let you lead us on that, and then I can, you know, I'll chime in when you know I got my own stories. I'm in South Reading on 273, and I think it was as bad there as anywhere. It was literally like a river. The ends. I don't know what happened. I talked to a guy who was working on the actual repairing of the drainage ditch, and he said there was like some trees and stuff like that were plugged. So what happened was by 273, I think it might be El Reno or something, right there by Ace Valley Supply Hardware in South Reading, on right where Breslauer is, basically, that connects to West Side Road. There's a drainage that comes down from the hill from the neighborhoods up there, and all the storm drains come down, and I mean, water was shooting 15 feet out of the manhole there, just on El Reno, and then I think it's El Reno, and then right on the other side, in between West Side and 273, it was, I mean, shooting up maybe 10 feet, but it was like, I don't know, 15 foot wide. I don't know how many cubic feet a second or whatever, but we're talking massive amounts of water. Well, it's supposed to drain on the other side of 273 in between the train tracks and 273. Well, it was completely plugged up. There was no water coming out on where it was supposed to. And I don't know if they covered it up with gravel or something, but I mean, I don't see how that whole exit could have been plugged up without some kind of negligence.
I heard that one of those drains down there was plugged up by a couple of tents. And that sounds like the spot where it would be, because you've got those brothers and sisters that are unhoused living underneath the overpasses for the creeks down underneath the bridges. They're not trolls, they're homeless people. And that sounds logical to me.
Man, they must have been some pretty heavy-duty tents, because they would have been handling some hundreds of pounds of pressure.
But you know what else is the trees came down and plugged it up. Well, that's called maintenance. When there's a tree in the creek, you get it out of there so it doesn't plug up. Over where I live on Wilshire Drive. and it is an island of county surrounded by the city of Reading. And I moved in there about 25 years ago. In the record Searchlight, one of the city councilors said this is a once in a 50-year storm. Well, it's a once in a 5-year storm. Unless we're in a drought, then it's 6 or 7. When I first moved in there 25 years ago, the first 3 or 4 years, we had a big storm like this. And the ditch on the other side of the road was plugged up with leaves and limbs and stuff, and it was threatening to flood over into everybody's. Well, the ditch is probably 150 yards long. It's just the side of the road. It's not a big ditch. So my son and I, Logan, we took pitchforks and we cleaned it out. We just throw the leaves up on the road or whatever and got it flowing, and we didn't have a problem. And we would have to do that, every time we had a bad storm like this, every 5 years or so, and it wasn't a big deal. Well, I called up the county one time, and I suggested that they take and clean that ditch out on the south side of Wilshire. Well, they show up and they clean out the north side, up on the hill where it doesn't do any good at all. And I went up there. They were eating lunch. I said, "Are you guys done?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, this other side needs." Well, we did what we were told to do. So I said, "Can you get a boss out here?" And I showed him, and he said, "Yeah, you're right." He cleaned it up, gave the water a place to go to, and there wasn't any flooding. Well, the city of Reading owns what is called the Rother Ditch. The Rother Ditch is 150 yards long, maybe. It runs north and south on the side of a hillside that isn't buildable, and it's on private property. And it flows into the Henderson Ditch that goes north and south. The Henderson Ditch, the Rother Ditch is maybe 4 foot wide, and it drains Bocelli Lane and that up in there. The Henderson Ditch runs straight east and west, straight to the river. It's probably 20 foot wide and 10 foot deep, and it's been there forever. These ditches are at least 75 years old and probably older. Well, the city of the Rother Ditch, we noticed that the side was getting saturated, and it was looking like it's going to drain, it's going to give way and flood the road. So I think it was Wayne that lives down the street called up the city and told them about it. And I called up Irwin Fust. He was our supervisor at the time. I said, "Irwin, this needs some help here." And he said, "Well, I'll see what he can do." He came out and I showed him. And he talked to the city, and the city provided cement bags, and the county provided the little juvenile delinquents from Crystal Creek as labor. And they shored it up real good. It lasted for probably 10 years or so, but here's the same problem again. So, and the ditch would fill up with limbs and trees and this and that. And I would clear it out periodically until it got to be too much for me. And it started giving way. So I called up Mark Sabula. Mark Sabula had been a city councilor. And then, by the way, he voted to create Big League Dreams. And he later, I think, realized it was a mistake the way they did it. But he got the Crystal Creek kids to come down there and clean out the ditch. And as a matter of fact, they'd come down to my house and get a drink of water and wash their hands when they were done. And I was talking to the guy that was ramrodding them. And I said, you're probably in high demand. He says, "No." He said, "Really, we're always looking for something to do." And I said, "Well, there's a good project right down under the hill from you. You should go down to Carr Powerhouse. That's overgrown. The cement's falling apart." And he went down there evidently because 2 years later when I went up there, it was all fixed, cleaned up, and looked really nice. I think he found a project for them kids that lasted a month or so. They should have been real proud of what they did there. So Mark got it cleaned out. And then about 7 years ago, the side of the ditch gave out. And you had a stream coming down across the field onto my property, and it puddled up. If it would have raised 2 inches, just like this last one, it would have been in my mother-in-law house, flooding it. So I called up the city of Reading, and I called up Julie Winter. She'd been a city councilor for about a year, and I remember all the work that they did up and down the Sacramento River. And I said, "Well, she'll get all over this, cleaning this up and getting that fixed so it doesn't flood our neighborhood." and she agreed to meet me down there with Brian Crane. Now, Brian Crane, he's 6'2", 6'3", about 240, and I go up there and meet him, and he sticks his chest out and tries to bully me, and he says, when these drainage ditches were created, the agreement was the property owner would take care of them and keep them up. This isn't our problem. I said, well, you guys are getting stormwater drain money to transport this water to the river, and this is your ditch. The property owner told me he gets no benefit from this ditch, that it's on his property, but he can't use that property because of this ditch. It's not buildable, and he's not going to fix it. I said, it's your water, and you need to fix it. And oh, boy, Julie stuck up for him, and no, this isn't our problem. I went to 6 or 7 city council meetings, one right after another, and I got up there, and I got on them hard. And they just, Mr. Gardner, the property owner's responsible for this, and I'm, no. This is just like if you took a garbage truck and took it across the county line and dumped it on the side of the road. It's the county's problem now, not yours. And I wasn't getting anywhere. So one day I got to thinking, I've got to do something different. They ruined my driveway. It'll cost me $20,000 to fix the driveway, which I'm not going to do. The water's crumbled the cement. So I called up a friend of mine, Chance Martin. He worked for J&J Pumps at the time. Now he's got his own pump service, CNC pumps. A nice young man. He used to play hockey with my son. I said, who do I want to call to get on them? And he says, State of California Water Resources. You don't want them coming around. So I went to a city council meeting, and I had 4 different outfits up there. One was EPA, the National EPA, and I had their addresses and their phone numbers, and county water quality were up about a mile from my house, and I had their address, and I says, I can walk down at lunchtime and show this guy this. I said, the problem is my water table is 30 foot deep. This water is coming off Bocelli Lane and up by Rother School and all of that drainage, and it's got oil and it's got antifreeze in it, and all these carcinogens are percolating into our water table. Guess what? They woke up and cleaned it up. But I shouldn't have had to go to those lengths. That was just ridiculous. So that's the Rother ditch. Oh, plus what Chuck Auckland's the one that got it fixed. But what Brian Crane tried to tell me is, well, this was a gentleman's agreement. I'm going, well, why don't you provide me with some written proof? There's nothing in my deed that says that we're responsible for keeping that clean, and going on and on. And then he switches and he says, well, the last person to work on this ditch and clean it up is responsible for it. What kind of an argument's that? In fact, I had worked on that ditch. I went up there one time, and there was a couple holes about the size of your fist in the cement that I could see is going to run through and take the dike out. Well, I took a 5-gallon bucket of cement up there and fixed it. And so does that make me responsible to clean the whole damn ditch out? So now we're going to go on over to Henderson Ditch, the big ditch that runs back and forth. That was put in probably 75 years ago, and it is overgrown. The homeless camp in it during the summer. I mean, right down in
Where is the Henderson Ditch?
It's 40 yards from Hartnell Avenue. When you go by the old Rayleighs and head up the hill, it's right there. There's that draw right there.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Where all the homeless, it's the worst homeless camp Bill Schuler had seen, and they're only 100 yards from my house. But when they put it in, Kmart, none of those places were developed yet. Bocelli Lane wasn't hardly developed. Shadwick, subdivision, just on the flat down there, they dump all their drain water in. So they put this ditch in, and then they added the load to it. All the water from Kmart, Denny's, Dollar Tree, those places up there, all that goes into it. There's a subdivision off Bocelli Lane between Interstate 5 and Bocelli Lane that was added to it. All its drain water goes into it. All of Bocelli Lane, that's a lot of water. Well, I walked out during this last go-around, And the water was shooting out about 10 foot tall out of the culvert. There's a great big culvert that goes underneath Bocelli Lane. In fact, it goes under I-5. A few years ago, Jose's statue place just on the other side of Parsons, they sell statues, Hispanic-type statues and lawn ornaments and big, expensive vases for plants. They had a koi pond inside. They come to work one morning, and there's an otter in there, and he ate all their kois. Well, he came up that drainage ditch and got in there. So anyway, it's all grown up, and I have taken supervisors down there. I took Joe Comenti down there. I took Mark Bazzano down there twice. I've taken other people of importance down there and showed them that this needs to be cleaned out or it's going to flood. In fact, I lived at the end of Birch Way when I was in 7th grade, so that's about 12 or 13. We flooded then. I talked to a gal that lived there in 1984, and she told me they flooded then. Well, this time it gave way, and I know of 6 houses that got flooded in my neighborhood. And my neighborhood probably has 18 houses in it, would be my guess. And I was told about some others that flooded last night, so I didn't add those to the 6 count. But, Mark Mazzano took pictures of the trash that the homeless left in there, and one thing I remember is a mattress. And you've got all these overgrown trees and stuff, and this mattress goes down there. What do you think would happen if it slipped sideways? And that canal overflowed in 2 places I know of. The Rother ditch, which comes across and goes down into a culvert that I didn't even know was there, it's either 18 or 24 inches. It was so overgrown and covered with debris that, like I say, I didn't know it was there. The neighbor rented a little skip loader and had a guy clean that out, and he did a pretty good job, but he ditched the water over on my property. Thankfully, we haven't flooded again. And as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% the city of Reading's responsibility to keep the infrastructure for the drain water cleaned out, and they don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, an ounce of preventative maintenance worth a pound of problem, right? I say that over and over again, but it's the truth, because you deal with the aftermath of a, this type of situation. Oh yeah, she's pulling these. This is what I did at my shop. I have a couple 1 horsepower pumps. I'm not trying to plug anything. I do sell those pots. I mean, I'll sell them at cost for $3 or $4 is what I pay for them. I'm not even trying to sell those. The pumps I actually got at Harbor Freight because they're 1 horsepower. I'm not trying to plug their stuff necessarily, but I'm trying to show someone an ounce of preventative maintenance here. This is in the back of my lot here. Those pump out 100 gallons per minute each, or 6,000 gallons an hour. So that's 12,000 gallons an hour, or 200 gallons a minute, that are on float valves that are just hooked up automatic. I've actually got a backup generator too in case the power goes out, which the power did go out. Now, when this flood was happening, I've actually had 6 1 horsepower pumps pumping out of the back. So anyways, this is just an idea. Those are cloth containers made for soil to go in there, a little bit of caging to hold its form, and that's just to keep the debris from getting in and plugging up the pumps. Anyways, it was just an idea for people if you want to put it in your backyard or something. Anyways, here's the video of what it looked like down in...
Let me finish what I was saying while you play these. You're just fine. Another thing is, when I first started, Kristen Schrader was the mayor, and you ought to have seen her. She's responsible for all this homeless mess we have, in my opinion, her and Leonard Modi. But she just, Mr. Gardner, we've heard all about this. We're not going to fix it. It's not our responsibility. Oh, what an arrogant person she was. Well, in the last couple of years, they added a lot of load on Bocelli Lane by putting in the curbs and gutters. All that water that used to go off the side of the road and soak into the ground, that all comes down through there. And they took and put in a couple of square cleanouts on each side of Wilshire, about halfway down the hill. And the water came down from Bocelli Lane and hit the first one. And I've got pictures of it. It was coming out of the pipe or the clean out 4 foot high. And on the other side, where the main canal, the little ditch came and hit it, it was the same thing. You could have fished trout in the middle of that road. That's how big of a stream of water was going down through there. It wasn't engineered correctly. If they'd have left the flow the way it was, the only reason they put the one in I can see is to slow down the volume of the water. And that was a big mistake. And then where it couples to the culvert and goes on down, they put in about, 40 yards of culvert to keep the side from sliding out because they couldn't fix the drainage. All I can figure out is they didn't connect it very good because, 5 or 6 years ago when we had a storm just like this, I noticed water shooting out of there about a foot tall, and they had gravel in it, probably an inch and a half gravel, and it all washed out. So I called them up and told them, something's wrong there. In fact, Chuck Auckland went down there and looked at it, and he said, well, there's nothing I can do for you here, Nick. And I said, well, okay, I just showed it to you. Their answer to the problem was putting bigger rocks in so they wouldn't wash out. But I will say this about Chuck Auckland. He got that ditch fixed. And I've noticed that he was really, he was a good employee. He fixed things when you brought it to his attention as best he could. But he inherited a mess from Brian Crane, in my opinion. I could go on about the things he cut corners on that we're paying for right now. So, tell us more.
Oh, I mean, that was about it. I was just showing the videos. It was crazy. That was Cedars. If you looked at the river road, I don't know if you want to call it a river or a road. It was pretty wild. It was just, I don't know how much water was coming down, but it was just pretty wild. If we didn't have the pumps in the back of my shop, we would have had astronomical loss. I mean, I've got a lot, my whole life in savings is in my business. I mean, that's everything that is of value to me. I have a house, but I don't have a lot of things. I don't have a lot of fancy things. Like I call it Johnny stock. I'm invested in my business. And anyways, we would have had massive amounts of water damage. I was pumping out probably about 800 gallons a minute out of the back parking lot where all the water builds up and shooting it out to the road, which to the river. I was basically shooting the water out to the river. If I wouldn't have had those pumps going, we would have had, it would have been catastrophic.
That's great. You were thinking outside of the box. Yeah. You weren't calling somebody and asking them how you're going to fix it.
Well, luckily I sell pumps, and I had pumps there, even though the ones I showed in the picture, those ones are on floats, which I don't sell those specific ones, but they were $170 a piece, and the pots cost me a few bucks, the caging a couple dollars, and for less than $500, I've got secure. I can go to bed at night knowing that if it starts dumping out, I'm pumping out a couple hundred gallons a minute out of the back, and because that's where it builds up is in the back. But anyways,
where it flooded over an Enterprise on Hartnell over by
I heard
Harbor
it was really
Freight.
bad. Yeah.
Well, that's a big canal that goes down through there, and the only thing I can think of, it was plugged up someplace down there.
Yeah.
And
I don't know the answer to that, but I saw some videos, and I know a lot of apartment complexes and businesses. I called Harbor Freight actually, and just to see if they were open, and they were open, but there was a lot of businesses and a lot of houses and a lot of apartments that got
Cash
damaged.
and Carry, they're out of business for a while. They maybe, I was told at Fat Daddy's Barbecue last night, pretty good stuff if you want some barbecue, that they're hoping to open back up in a couple of weeks, and the restaurants are running out of supplies because that's where a lot of them shop. The thing is, that drainage starts up by the Mount Shasta Mall. That goes through there. If you look across from Dairy Queen, you can see it. It's a big square drainage system. And it goes underground, I think, right there by used to be the Bank of Commerce. It's a different bank now. And goes under Safeway and comes out just on the other side of Safeway. And and the homeless. I talked to somebody that was, I think it was the pharmacist at Safeway. And he told me there was a heck of a homeless community underground under Safeway, and that's where they all hang out. But you know, the city of Reading, in my opinion, is responsible for the vast majority of this flooding. But you know what? This is going. The insurance companies are going to pay out big on a lot of this. That's going to raise our insurance rates.
Yeah, they're going to.
Thank you, government.
They're a for profit. They're not well. They're not nonprofit. They are for profit. They're a business to make money. So they're not going to in the long run. And look at what PG&E did. I mean, they lost some money during the car fire and stuff, and then they've been making record profits now. And their prices are astronomical. So what happened when they lost money? They just raised their prices, and they're going to make that money.
Well, sure, yeah, but you know, you look at our government. Look what they've done to our forests. You know, most people that live outside in a rural area can't even get homeowners insurance. That's on the government. And then if you're lucky enough to get some, it's an astronomical price. It's like another tax payment, if not more. And boy, I'll tell you, it just
it's way more.
It seems like our government is sure costing us a lot of money unnecessarily.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to get rid of Prop 13, but we'll do a whole nother show on that. It looks like we're pretty much. I do want to do a plug, and then I'll let you finish up with whatever you want to talk. It looks like we're at the end of 30 minutes, but I first of all, I want to thank Jefferson State Diesel. They are our number one supporter.
I've
They're
heard
helping.
so many good things about them.
They're freaking awesome. That's the only place I will take my truck. And I mean, those guys are just rock solid, and they're helping us keep the lights on. They actually reached out to us and said, hey, it's that time of year. We want to support you again. And we didn't even have to call them. And so I went by there and saw Jeremy, and he just great people, great mechanics, solid, honest people. So if you have a diesel, I would definitely recommend them. I mean, that's absolutely where I would go, whether they sponsor me or not. But also, they're huge supporters of the community, and they do a lot for us here in Shasta County. I also want to give a shout out to Taylor Motors. Is awesome. They're not afraid of what people think about them, and they're just stand up, freaking great people. Great service. They have integrity. They're local. If I was going to buy a new vehicle, that's definitely where I would go. And the third shout out I want to give is Liberty Labs Cavalry. They make 5 different products, but this one specifically because it was 4 nights ago, everybody around me was getting sick, had this gnarly cough and just fevers and all this kind of stuff, funky stuff going around. I got kids. Everybody else was sick. I was like, oh, this ain't going to touch me. Well, I went and lay down 4 nights ago, and it started kicking like really, really. I felt it. I was like, oh no, this thing's going to get a hold of me. I brought in the Cavalry, and this thing kicked its butt, and it didn't touch me. And it's got 18 different ingredients, all super high quality organics infused with humic and fulvic acids are part of the ingredients that help the bioavailability of all the other things. It's got the quercetins, the NACs, the N-acetylcysteines. A lot of these products in here you have to buy separately. This is an all-in-one immune support formula, and always consult your physician before you take any supplements from anybody. But this product is my personal favorite, and I believe it's the best immune boosting formula out there. So if you're feeling sick, bring in the Cavalry.
Well, you know, I take the vitamins. Vitalize, is that what they are?
Yeah, the Vitalize Plus is.
I feel a little bit more get up and go, and I've just been taking them about a month, but I have a little bit more get up than go. I recaptured some of that get up and go that was gone. It's coming back to me.
Yeah, it's life-changing stuff. That product has 102 different ingredients. I've never seen any other product out there. Oh yeah, use MTM10 and you'll save 10% on these Liberty Labs supplements.
Mountaintop Media.
Yep, MTM10. And then the easiest way to find them is libertylabs.store. That's libertylabs.store. store is the easiest way to get there. And then you put on MTM10 on the discount code and you save 10%, and you won't find anything as complete and pure sourced and effective as these products.
You know, one thing that's really worrying me is a lot of the small businesses shutting down here locally. I work for small businesses.
Yeah.
And I've lost half a dozen jobs or so. Today is the last day of Al's Saw Shop.
No.
Yeah. And I talked to Luann, the owner, yesterday. I was taking off their Christmas paint, and she says, tomorrow's my last day. I said, what'd you do? You sell out? And she says, well, yeah, kind of. She says, still is going to directly to the public, meaning they're cutting out the saw shop, the inventory and all that. And some guy has bought their business, and it's going to be a service center. So you buy your weed eater online, and if you have a problem, you take it to the service center.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I know Johnny pretty well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
he can tell you about it.
Yeah, I talked to him about just things being difficult because people just don't have money, and if people don't have money, they don't spend money. You know, and you think people have to fix stuff no matter what, but you know, when I used to rebuild Honda and Acura transmissions, you think if your transmission's out, you're going to get it fixed no matter what. That's not necessarily the case. If the economy if people have money, you think, oh, you have to fix the transmission. Well, if you ain't got the money, you ain't going to fix the transmission. You're going to ride a bicycle or the bus, or you're going to walk, or you're going to get a ride.
Well, speaking of buses, the city of Reading just got, I think, about a $2.5 million grant to replace some of their diesel buses with electric buses. I had a friend of mine that...
You ever seen those things go up in flames?
No.
I'll send a video of a whole entire parking lot where the buses were all parked next to each other. One of them, those lithium-ion batteries are dangerous, and one of them caught on fire. The whole parking lot of buses just one caught on fire, and they all went up in flames.
You know what I worry about is, well, anyway, before I go to that, a friend of mine suggested when they were first starting Rabba, he says, why don't we save some money and just give everybody vouchers for a taxi?
Well, it would probably cost a lot less money because, I mean, last time I looked, they were around 95% subsidized, which meaning they brought in about a nickel for every dollar. Now it's probably even going to get worse with these electric vehicles, and it's just not practical, and it's not clean. We're not using clean energy, the mining of the batteries.
And if we had vouchers, we could have these Somalians driving taxis all over Reading, hauling us around. Wouldn't that be fun?
Maybe they can give you a ride to the daycare centers.
There you go.
They give you and little Joey a ride.
I want to be Joey. This is Joey. He's 75 years old, but he's about 12 years old mentally.
Well, you could identify however you want, right?
I want to be Miss Joey today.
We better wrap this thing up, huh?
Okay. Well, listen, I've got a radio show, Poke the Hornet's Nest, 9 o'clock on KQMS. I feel safe saying that because I advertise Mountaintop Media on KQMS on Poke the Hornet. And so they don't mind me advertising you, and I know you don't mind me advertising them, and we're all in this together. We got to win. Have a great week.
Go ahead and sing your tune. We didn't listen, stayed right on the truth. And now we're on the right side